Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast. My name is Margaret Romero. I'm a Columbia-trained functional medicine nurse practitioner, and here I uncover the truth behind chronic illness so that you can finally heal. I'm a women's health and hormone expert and love empowering women to finally live their life fully and powerfully through optimal health. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. And we are back for another week of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. And this week, I have an amazing guest. I just love her. Her name is August Brice. She's the founder of Tech Wellness, where she helps to empower people to live a healthier, safer, more secure life with digital technology. Now, you have got to listen in because we are talking all about EMF, electromagnetic fields, which we are surrounded by on a daily basis. Every minute of the day, we either are surrounded with Wi-Fi or, from our internet service, our computers, our phones, which are attached to us for I don't even know how many hours per day. I really hope not 24 hours. For a lot of you who may have your cell phone underneath your pillow, oh my goodness, please do not do that. Or have your cell phones tucked in your bra or something like that. Please stop doing that. So today we are talking about not only EMF, what it is actually doing to you and some of the symptoms that EMF could actually be causing that you may be unaware that it's actually due to EMF. So we talk about that. We talk about, how EMF is also in those heating blankets, heating pads, even your microwaves. You use it to heat up lunch or dinner or something like that. Those microwaves are not something that, one, you should be using, but if you do not stand right in front of it. That is the last thing you want to do. You are going to learn so much in this episode. And listen, I even got one of her devices that I found online on her techwellness.com. It's amazing because every night I unplug my Wi-Fi from my wall. And she's like, oh my God, do not touch that. So I have a device that I installed, really easy. You just plug it in. And then there's literally a remote that turns my Wi-Fi on and off every day. And so I turn it off before bed and I turn it on before I'm about to work in the morning. So this conversation is not to be missed. August has so much information that I didn't actually even know about EMF. And kind of how far should you be away from your phone or from your Wi-Fi and things like that, which I didn't know. There's actually been studies on how far away can you be from these things. Also in your car. Did you ever think about that? The Wi-Fi, AirPods. We go all into all of that. So listen up. Without further ado, let's head on over. Take a listen, and you're probably going to be making a lot of changes after you hear this. Now on to the show. Welcome back to the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and today we have a special guest, August Brice, and we are talking all about EMFs. August, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
Margaret, me too. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm great. Oh, I have so many questions, by the way, but tell us just a little bit about your, what had you really interested in this, in EMFs and all things techno?
Well, actually, it began because I received my first cell phone, and I was, it was years and years ago, But I always told this story about how as soon as I picked up the phone, I could feel the energy. And my daughter, a couple of years ago, we had digitized all of our videos from when she was little. And she said, "Oh, Mom, I found that thing about the phone. And oh my gosh, you should see it." And so I played the video. And sure enough, my husband gives me this phone. It's Christmas. I pick it up. He says, "Call your mom." I touch it and my body physically shakes from the energy.
Wow.
And that began my experience and journey of trying to figure out what it was. And it was electromagnetic hypersensitivity. And so I write a lot on Tech Wellness about EMF sensitivity. I've met so many people. I have a podcast interviewing many people who are now sensitive. And when I first discovered what it was, which wasn't like until decades later, they said that about 3% of the population could have it. And now we're close to 7 or 8% of the population probably had. Yes, sad.
And so what are they feeling when they're sensitive to it?
Okay, there are so many different symptoms, and you know, as a nurse practitioner can probably relate them to other autoimmune issues as well. But number one, insomnia and sleep issues. We get headaches. I get a really interesting, like thick headache when I'm near a Wi-Fi, ringing in the ears. You can get super tired. A lot of people that I've interviewed have a strange sound that they hear that isn't ringing. It's more of a deep, they describe it as sort of a semi-truck feeling in their ears. You know, it can get to heart palpitations, dizziness, joint pain. They can feel pressure. I have a lot of people who talk about pressure or heat all over their bodies. Some people might get rashes. In fact, the person who first discovered that there was something happening with the energy from a computer to a person coined the term screen dermatitis, because they saw that people who sat in front of the computer were getting rashes on their bodies, the people that were experiencing symptoms. And I actually spoke to that person on a podcast recently, and I told him about the time I do a lot of videos showing people the invisible energy that you can't see by using meters, because okay. I think it's the best way to really create awareness about it. And so I was doing a video, and I was 3 feet from the Wi-Fi, and we had a low power Wi-Fi and a regular Wi-Fi, and I was doing a comparison. And I'm just holding the meter in front of both of them. And then afterward, my producer, about 15 minutes later, he said, "Oh my gosh, what's on your hand?" The hand that had been holding the meter looked like I had this like sunburn that was super extreme. I mean, a super red sunburn. And it took about a week for it to go away. And that actually, there's pictures of it. That's screen dermatitis. That's also EHS, electromagnetic hypersensitivity.
Oh, okay.
Interesting, right?
Yes. So meanwhile, these symptoms are probably half the population has these symptoms. I mean, who doesn't get headaches, feel tired, sometimes have an occasional joint pain, dizzy? I mean, rashes, it's so common. It would be, how would someone, is there another way to test that?
Well, you know, many new functional medicine doctors will have your exposure intake on their intake forms. They really want to know, you know, how close you are to your Wi-Fi, how many wireless devices are in your home. But I've talked to people a lot about this, and generally speaking, if they can get themselves away from all their wireless devices for a good amount of time, you know, for a week, a good week, and then go back into a digital environment, then they'll notice the symptoms. And if they can connect those symptoms to exposure, they'll know. They'll know if it's that or if they have one of the other myriad of autoimmune issues that you talk about on your podcast, right? Like you were saying, these symptoms are similar to symptoms that you can experience with many states of disease. But for me, the great thing about it, it was so clear because I'd never had a cell phone before. And it was instantaneous. It was so easy. Now that we're born into digital environments, it is hard to tell. But I think this overall feeling and now the research, like this woman from Turkey just completed one of, there's now thousands of research studies connecting EMF with health issues. And a woman from Turkey just discovered that melatonin depletes from EMF. And she also said, and this was just in a conversation that I had with her, that she noticed the rats in the study were very anxious when they were exposed to the cell phone. So she did it with actual cell phones. She put cell phones near the cages of rats, and she noticed that they got very anxious when the cell phone was put into the cage. And she did this 30-day study, and I've linked it, but I think it was for 5 days of exposure for 30 days. And then they kept testing the melatonin levels and found that, you could help with, by taking melatonin, you could help with some of this decrease. But the most important thing is it actually affected EMF levels and it caused anxiety. So I think that we're experiencing so much anxiety about so many things these days.
Right.
I think if we,
so true.
If we know for a fact, because we've seen it now in research, that there's a connection between EMF and anxiety, I think that it's another great reason to put your phone down and turn it off and get it on airplane mode.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so a couple of things here I'm thinking about. Since we've all moved home and we're working from home, we are literally sitting in front of our computers for hours and hours at a time, me included. We are sitting in front of our computers all day long, at least 8 hours, including myself. So, and we also have our cell phone in front of us, most likely. Sometimes people work from 2 computers in front of them. So what can someone do to kind of help themselves during this time when they're at home, or even when you're working in an office setting? There's fax machines and all other computers around you.
Well, my favorite work from home hack is to wire up. And you can actually call your cable company and ask for a wired port if you want to go that far. And that's my environment. I am exposed to 0 EMF in my environment, 0 EMF radiation, that is, because I have a wire, a Cat 8, super fast, double shielded wire that goes from my computer to the wall. And then my computer has a wired keyboard. And then I use a wired mouse. So I'm completely wired up. And we also have on Tech Wellness a Hardwire Kit that you can take the Wi-Fi and use your Wi-Fi to be the base of hardwiring for your home. And with what it's called a splitter that we put in the kit, you can actually wire 4 devices at a time. So you can wire your phone, and you can use your phone while it's on airplane mode to scroll Instagram, to surf the internet, to do whatever you want except make a phone call. And in order to make a phone call, I use any of the messaging apps. I particularly like Signal. And so I can quote unquote FaceTime on Signal. I can call on Signal. But because I don't have a cell signal, I can't make a typical phone call. But everything else, I can go on my email. I can go onto any other app on my phone while it's wired. It's delightful. And so that's my number one recommendation, is to do what you can to hardwire any of the devices that you have.
Okay. So what do you think about these grounding mats?
It's interesting because the grounding mats, many of them have an electrical connection, and I'm sensitive to that because that just goes with my sensitivity. I'm not saying that they don't work for everyone. However, the best thing that you can do is get outside. I totally believe in grounding. It's so awesome. And so what I do is I take a barefoot walk every day. And I'm fortunate that I can do that. But if you really want to look around your home and make it as EMF safe as possible, my number one recommendation is to hire a building biologist, because they'll come in and they'll look at all the different types of EMF, including bad wiring in your home, and they'll help you mitigate that. For the simple things that you can do, as far as using a grounding cord, and that isn't like the grounding mat that you're talking about, but we actually have grounding electrical cords. And so that electrical cord plugged into your computer or to a lamp will stop what's called dirty electricity that comes from bad wiring from being in your space. Now, that dirty electricity is important, but it only travels, a few feet. Whereas your wireless EMF exposure, your phone, you can actually be 2 feet from your phone and still be getting some of that radiation coming from your phone. So that's why I think it's so much more. And your Wi-Fi, I recommend being 20 to 40 feet away from your Wi-Fi. It's that strong.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Because at one point I heard that it was only 6 feet. Actually not the Wi-Fi, but your phone. Keep your phone. Oh, you actually said your cell phone should be 2 feet?
A couple feet, 2 or 3 feet away.
2 to 3 feet. Okay.
For one thing, it should be as far away from your body as possible.
Right.
Even Apple, even in the manual, you've probably heard this. They talk about the phone needs to be kept 5 centimeters from your body. That's about 2.5 inches. And so it's best, like I keep mine in a case with straps so that I can hold the phone like a purse away from me. And also typically my phone's on airplane mode. So I really don't have that exposure because, as I said, I'm so sensitive to it.
So just going back to what you just said, you keep it in what type of case?
Well, actually, I have a Faraday bag, and it's exclusive. I think I'm the only one in the world that's carrying it right now. I made it. I designed it in a partnership with Silent Pocket, and Silent Pocket makes Faraday bags, and mine is a crossbody purse. And so it has a pouch that has Faraday, and Faraday is a material that you put around the phone, and there's absolutely nothing that can come in and nothing that comes out as far as EMF goes when it's in the Faraday pouch. And then when I want to use it, I take it out of the pouch and I put it in the front pocket. And so I attach my AirTube headsets to my phone, and I can make a phone call that way. When I'm not on a call and I need to text, I take the phone out, I put it on a surface, and I use my stylus, and that affords me, 4 or 5 inches from the EMF radiation source, which is the antenna. And in most phones, there are 3 different antennas now. So that's why there's just these little radiation machines, I call them.
Okay. So what do you think about, I've heard this for so many years, that they have these contraptions, these little circle things that you put on your phone, you slap them on your laptop. Are those effective?
Actually, they cannot be proven effective because when they talk about EMF protection, quote unquote, they don't do anything to stop the EMF. What they are supposedly doing, and we can't measure it, but they're supposedly sending out a harmonizing wave that will take that EMF wave and pretty much diffuse it. But you can't measure it. There's absolutely no decrease when you attempt to measure. I only back and I only sell things that are scientifically proven. And so I just can't recommend those. Eventually, maybe we'll come up with some technology to measure it. But I do know that in the past, and actually, have you heard of Dr. Klingart?
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Klingart has a video, and this just reinforces what I personally have experienced, and that is a false sense of security that these types of things give. And there's a study where they talk about these chickens that they put these harmonizers in a chicken coop. And of course, this wonderful energy comes out of the harmonizer, and the chickens end up laying twice as many eggs. But Dr. Klingart follows the study even further, and he finds out that in a couple of years, the chickens that were exposed are dead, whereas the chickens that were not exposed are still living. And he from that deduces that what happened is that the chickens that did not have a harmonizer, they stayed far away from the Wi-Fi. And you saw them in cages, and they would run to the edge of the cage to be away from the Wi-Fi. Where the chickens that had the harmonizer, they were huddled up next to the Wi-Fi, and they ended up dying within 2 years. And that's what I'm afraid of when I think of any of these things that we're not quite sure of, and maybe they are sending out a nice energy, but they may be masking the damaging electromagnetic fields that we know 2,000 studies show us cause health effects from infertility to cancer tumors.
Wow. That's amazing. How can this be proven? Have they, I haven't looked into the research about this, but how has it been proven with the infertility and the cancer?
Oh, yes. I have links to, I think, hundreds of the top studies. And so, yes, there's studies showing that, people who men who sit next to the Wi-Fi, they do the before and after, and they have a lower sperm count, and the sperm has less motility. So there are absolutely really good connections in research showing infertility. The NTP study, that's our own national toxicology program, did a big 5-year study, and they found that cell phone radiation was associated with DNA damage. And, that came out, I think, in 2019. So that's from our own government. They've actually shown that this radiation can cause very serious damage. Now, as far as the research with the harmonizers, they show that these harmonizers can sometimes be linked to a change in heart rate variability, which is super important. But I don't know if they show it as far as the cell phone is connected. And, they're not, I haven't seen a peer-reviewed double-blind study. I will link you, though, to that video with Dr. Klinghardt.
Oh, yes.
It was fascinating. Yeah, it was fascinating to hear him talk about that.
Great. All right. The other thing I wanted to know is so I think I can't stand watching what I see so much, and I cringe when women put their cell phones in their bra, in the front, right on their breast, or when men wear their, cell phones on their actual body.
Right, in their pockets. Yes, of course, completely exposing themselves to that radiation directly. Even if it's in their back pocket, it's over their hip, and that's the source of blood, right? That we create our blood right there. And so it's so scary in so many ways. And that's why I really encourage men, if they're going to put their phones in their pockets, to at the very least put them on airplane mode. And then when you're ready, it's that whole idea that we don't need to be a slave to our phones, right? We don't have to answer the call as soon as it comes in. When we're ready to take a call, we can turn on our phones, or when we're ready to answer a text, then we can stop and turn on our phones and not hold them, put them down somewhere, turn them on, and, avoid as much of the exposure as possible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so what are your thoughts about heating blankets and heating pads?
Right. So that's a different type of EMF. That is the electrical and magnetic EMF. I, too, am sensitive to that as well. And so I knew a long time ago when I was growing up that I felt so groggy under the electric blanket. And now I know why. It was all that magnetic energy on my body. So I'm not a fan. I love the new weighted blankets. They seem to do the trick.
Right.
I don't have a microwave. I don't have a Wi-Fi. And I love my technology. I mean, I have a beautiful website, and I have a wonderful Instagram communication. So I'm not sure that we need the wireless as much as we've embraced it.
Right. Tell me about the microwave. Tell us what it does to the food and what it does to us. And I have people who, I see it all the time, even out when I work at the urgent care. They'll put the food in there and then they'll stand right in front of it.
Oh, I cringe, just like you're saying. I cringe. Please don't do that. I have a video actually where I'm showing what's called a vest. It's like you're supposed to put it on top of your microwave to stop the radiation. And oh my goodness, when I did the video, the amount of radiation was just incredible. And of course, the cover doesn't work because it only covers a small portion of the microwave. And the radiation comes from all sides of the microwave. And that radiation travels so far and is so powerful. And so, of course, I don't have one. And if someone has one on, my advice is walk away. If you have to use your microwave, turn it on and get as far away from it as possible. And then as far as what it does to our food, if you look online and you look for studies about what it does to our food, because it would just stand to reason that all that heating, the water molecules has got to change the quality of the nutrition, but there really isn't much there. However, there's a new article coming out in Food Science in March, and they're going to break down all of the different elements of food, and they're going to show it exposed to ultrasound, microwave, and then not exposed. So I'm super interested. And right now in my microwave story, I do have an older study that talks about changes in lipids and changes in protein. And as you read the study, it's interesting because sometimes it increases things that seem good, and then sometimes it decreases. But I think the main takeaway from it is that it's absolutely doing something to the food.
Sure. And so how many feet do you have to walk away from the microwave if you are using it?
Okay, as I did the demonstration, when I got 15 feet away, I could start to see a nice drop off on the meter. 15 feet away from the microwave.
Wow.
It's a powerful little machine.
So this machine, could this test? Have you ever tried buying those circular harmonizers and putting them on your phone or testing it some other way?
Yes. Oh, yes, it will. And I'm sure that even if you look into the literature from the circles, the harmonizers, they'll tell you that it doesn't change the amount of EMF coming from the phone. I don't think they claim to say that. They call them EMF protection because they supposedly counter the wave with another kind of wave, but it doesn't decrease the amount of EMF. And I encourage everyone to get a meter and to see that for themselves, because a meter is so great. It makes the invisible energy visible. It's my favorite EMF protection tool because if you know where it is, you know how to avoid it.
And because I think at one point I did look for a meter. And it seemed like there were so many, and I'm like, which one is reliable? It's hard to know.
Yes. So everything that I do is science backed. And so I have found and carry only certified meters that have been evaluated and tested. So I carry 4 meters that I use every day actually. And, they're on the website.
Okay. Great. And so why do you use one every day if you're in your home? Do you use them in the home?
Well, I do so many videos showing people, oh my gosh, look at this. Like, do you have an Apple TV?
Oh, I see.
Margaret, do you have an Apple TV?
No.
Okay, so many people have Apple TV now. And so I was in my TV room and I'm like, wait, something feels weird. What's going on? So I get out the meter, and sure enough, the Apple TV remote control is a little toxic device. It's just constantly sending out signal. And so that's, one way I use it. I walk around the house and I try to buy as many wireless things as possible just so I can demonstrate to people what's happening. And then I take my meters wherever I go because I like to see the level of electromagnetic radiation in my environment.
Right.
This morning I rode my bike to breakfast. And when I chose a table, it's so nice everyone's sitting outside now, right?
Yeah.
And so when I chose a table, I walked around with my meter and found the lowest EMF environment in the restaurant.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
Yes, that's how I use it.
Okay. As we were speaking before we got on here, I was saying that every night I, unplug my Wi-Fi completely, and I live in a building currently, and I think about like, okay, well, this decreases my level within my home, but that certainly doesn't cut out any of the exposure I have from either side, my neighbor upstairs, my neighbors down below. And so, I mean, what can a person do, honestly? Because I can't rewire. I don't think that somebody would come and like, I'm not allowed to wire up or whatever to change things in here because I don't own this place. In a home, it's a different story, but aside from unplugging the Wi-Fi, is there anything else? Like, are there maybe something like a blanket? Like,
yes.
Even when I'm sitting in front of my TV, I've got the Wi-Fi and it's maybe 8 feet away from me because I'm sitting right in front of it.
Do you need to use your Wi-Fi? Does the Wi-Fi have to be on to watch TV?
I think so. I watch Netflix at night a little bit, and don't I need? I think I do need internet for that. Yeah.
Margaret, I can't wait for you to have the Wire Up Kit. I just can't wait. I think it's going to be life changing for you. So, but yeah. So then, of course, yes, you are exposed, and there are so many different forms of EMF protection right now that actually do work. One of my favorite things is the netting. So it sort of looks like a mosquito net, but you put this around your bed and you are 100% protected from all EMF. The catch is you have to ground it. And you also have to be concerned about the EMF that's coming up. Since you said you live with someone below you and someone above you, well, the people below you, that EMF will come up through the floor. And the reason it's important then but they have blankets, they have shields. So you would put a shield under your bed. And what you're trying to do is shield every single opening because that's really the only way it works. And then one of the worst things you could do would be to bring your phone into that shielded environment because your phone would have to work so hard to try to find signal that it would expose you to so much. So I think one of the misconceptions about shielding is that, I'll paint my walls because there's this beautiful shielding paint that works really well.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yes, it absorbs the radiation, but it's blocking antennas. And so if you put even your Wi-Fi inside a shielded area, you're going to get exposed to more than you would if you were in an unshielded area. And I know because I feel the same way when I travel and I'm staying in a hotel. It's scary, all the exposure coming from every other room. However, the exposure that's closest to you is the worst exposure for certain.
Right.
And also if each of us does a little bit, just think eventually maybe more and more people will realize that we don't need so many Wi-Fis. And especially the Wi-Fis now are becoming stronger and stronger. There's something called an Eco Wi-Fi that I also partner with. And it's really nice because he's gone in with software and just lowered the power, realizing that we don't need as much power as our Wi-Fis give us right now.
Right. Okay, so I just want to go back to the netting.
To the blanket? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay. So the netting, like I said, it's like a mosquito netting type of thing, and it's actually this silver mesh material, and but it looks like a mosquito net. And so as I said, you shield the entire area. And if you do have Wi-Fi coming up from underneath, you would also put a mat. And so then you climb in there and you've got no exposure at all. The problem with living in an area like that, like you can't shield your whole house because also the Schumann resonance, the lovely natural energy of the earth gets shielded out. So that's why we can't all live in Faraday cages. It just wouldn't be healthy. But this is for sleeping, I think it's probably a good idea. And if you were someone who had a cell tower really close and you wanted to shield from that, then you would use the shielding paint. And if you had a smart meter on the other side of a wall and you were concerned, then the shielding paint. But the paint needs to cover the entire wall as much as possible because that radiation comes from, it seeps in from all over. Under, over, it goes through walls, obviously. It goes through glass. So
sure,
in order to shield correctly, you have to increase the area of shielding coverage as much as you possibly can. And then not bring your wireless device inside that shielded area.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a good idea then. Let's say you have your Wi-Fi hookup and it's in your office, let's say, and you decide, let me just paint this office so it doesn't seep into the rest of the home. Is that possible? Or I wouldn't even get access to the Wi-Fi needed because of the paint?
You know what? That's something that we'd have to see as we did it. And I love the question because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get some of the paint and enclose like a box and just do that experiment and see. But typically, even if you read the fine print on the paint, or if you consult a building biologist, someone who would help you design the mitigation, they'll tell you it's about not using your wireless devices near the shielding. It's to protect you from the wireless that's outside.
Okay.
And as far as the blankets go, I'm so glad that you asked because there's also a little bit of a misconception about the blankets. You feel like, oh my goodness, I'm completely protected, right? But in fact, the area it's common sense. And one of my building biologist friends says, what part of your body is not important? Because the part that's not covered is exposed. And often what happens, with this material is that it causes hot spots. So it's reflecting away that energy that's coming from the wireless device. And as it does, sometimes it reflects more to the part of your body that's not covered. And they call those hot spots. Oh. And so say that you were getting, I'm just going to make up a number, like a number of 100. And you were getting 100 when you didn't have the blanket on and it was coming from that Wi-Fi over there and you could measure it with your meter.
Right.
And then you put the blanket on and on the parts that were covered, you weren't getting anything. But then all of a sudden on your face, you've got 200 or 250.
Oh my goodness.
It's a fact. It's a physics fact. That this is how it works. And I have a research study that came out in 2019 that explains the risks of EMF protection. There are rewards, but there's also risks. So we just have to be really aware. It's, how I like to try to explain it. Think of it as smoke. Think of it as smoke that you can see and smell, and you can kind of touch the smoke. And that smoke is coming off the antenna, and then you throw a blanket up, but your face is exposed. Where is that smoke going to go?
Right. And so, but can that happen even with these shields? Like, let's say I bought one that goes underneath the bed and then it goes over me. My head will still be sticking out.
No. With the blanket, with the netting.
The netting.
The netting covers your bed like a canopy, like mosquito netting. Oh. In those Africa.
It just doesn't go over me like a blanket.
No, think African safari. Oh. You're completely blanketed. It's actually really lovely. It looks beautiful. So yes, you're completely
Is there
covered.
A picture on your website what that looks like?
There is. Yes, there is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's in our shop.
Okay. Well, I love this conversation so much.
So glad.
because I know, turning off at night for me, obviously that's not enough. Plus, if it's a day that I'm working from home, I am on my, computer. So that grounding mat, which is also grounded to one of my outlets, is it doing anything?
Sure. Absolutely. If you're not sensitive to the electricity, it's definitely doing its job in taking the ground from the earth and bringing it up to your apartment or your condo. Yes. But for me, like I was saying, for me, since I can go and ground naturally, it just feels so much better for me.
Okay. So the mat goes underneath. So it goes underneath my computer. It
right,
also
you have it under your desk. Yes.
Okay, I have a question now, because my mat physically rests underneath my computer. It's not on the floor, but I know that people have their feet on them too. And so I just have one that goes underneath my mat. And so when I'm actually typing on my computer or resting my hand on the mouse, my hand touches the grounding. And so I thought that was sufficient, but then I started hearing about that you need a grounding mat on your feet as well.
You know what I would do if I were you? Do you have a building biologist in your area that can come over with a body voltage meter and with an electric meter and a magnetic meter and an RF meter? And he can or she, there's so many new building biologists. It's awesome. They can come over and they can walk your property, every part of it, and see if there's any need for a grounding mat. You might not even need one. And they can show you if yours is working. Like, I do not need a grounding mat in my home. I don't have any dirty electricity.
Right. But I do, because it's all over. It's coming from all my neighbors up and down and each side. So I do what I can to lessen it.
But the important thing, just like shielding, is to do it right so that it doesn't backfire on you.
Sure.
So that's why I really, if you can, when a professional comes over with all their different meters, and then they can detect, and then they can mitigate, and then they can measure again to verify, that's the way to do it. And your health is so important. It's
oh my gosh,
it's worth it.
It is worth it. I'm going to look this up. Building biologist. I'm going to Google that as soon as we get off the phone.
You don't need to. You can go on Tech Wellness, and I have a link to all of the
no
biologists.
way.
No, I do.
Oh, amazing.
And I also have other EMF specialists. Many don't have the training that a building biologist does. And I talk about that on the site too. But if there isn't a biologist in your area, there's someone who has some training. And so, but in New York, oh no, you're going to find a building biologist for sure. Yes.
Okay. That's amazing. That's a new term for me. So thank you so much for that. Let's see here. Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention. What are your thoughts around AirPods?
Oh gosh. You want to put that radiation in a direct current to your brain, a direct link to your brain. Now, I have a video showing the amount of radiation that they give off. And it's interesting because the AirPods we were using were someone who was working with me. And he said, but wait, tell me, is it better to have the AirPods on or to have the phone connected all the time? And I said, well, obviously, if you're only going to use the AirPods if you get a phone call, then just put one AirPod in, and make it short. He was giving me that, okay, if I had to do one or the other, if I had to carry the phone in my pocket and the phone was on all the time, or if I had nothing, but when I got a call, would I put an AirPod in? I said, oh my gosh, that's a tough one.
Right.
For me, the constant radiation would be worse. But also, I don't think I could even put an AirPod in my ear. I think it would be so painful for me. But so I encouraged him because he's one of those millennials that has those AirPods on all the time. He walks around even when he's not on a call, just waiting for a call. And while he's doing that, those AirPods are sending out signal. They're on all the time. So I think that if you had to do one or the other, it would be keep your phone off your body, keep it over in another room. When you're ready to make a call, pop one AirPod in only, because that signal that you're getting is Bluetooth, and Bluetooth is super annoying to me. Like, you can hear it on the meter and it goes pop, 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 pop. It's so incredible. It's just this powerful short burst, and it's what connects mostly, all the wireless speakers have Bluetooth. Your mouse, your wireless keyboard has Bluetooth. There's so many Bluetooth connected items these days that, you're probably exposed to a lot of Bluetooth, but right up inside your ear, no, that's my feeling on it.
It's always been my feeling as well. I will never buy AirPods, and I will, even if I got them for free, I would never wear them.
Good. And then don't put your cell phone on your body.
Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't go on my body. It doesn't. Except sometimes if I have to hold it to make a call or something.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's typically how it goes, right? So as soon as that's why I like to use a stylus, because a stylus I have a long stylus now too, that gives me about 7 inches, away from the phone. And so I'm not right on top of it. And it really does drop off by orders of magnitude away from the antenna. Like I said, 2 feet is the best. 3 feet, that's my headphones allow me 3 feet, which is awesome. But I'm also going to encourage you to try a stylus so that you don't actually have to touch the phone when you're making the phone call.
Oh, I should look for a long one. I've only seen the ones that are the size of like a pen.
Yeah, it's like a longer pen. So it's like I said, it gives me more space.
Right. Or you can also use Siri and say, call whoever without having to touch anything, right?
That's true. I don't have Siri enabled, mostly for privacy reasons, but yes, you can absolutely do that. Good idea.
And talking about Bluetooth, so people have it in their cars as well.
Mm.
That's how we answer calls.
Yes.
And
do you have the ability to turn it off? Because when you're in the car, and I have a video that demonstrates this, your radiation intake and exposure is increased dramatically, because whenever the phone has to work harder to find signal, and it does have to work harder because it's moving from antenna to antenna to antenna. So it's working to connect. You're exposed to more. So I don't use my phone in the car.
What if you had it plugged in, turned off Bluetooth, and had it plugged in? It's still, I wonder, I have to try. I'm going to try this. So if I turn off my Bluetooth, but I have the phone, I never have the phone on Bluetooth, even if I'm talking to someone on the phone.
Good.
I have it connected to the wire cable.
Good. Excellent.
And so I'm assuming I can still, I must be able to make calls, but I'm going to try turning off the Bluetooth, because that's really the only reason why I have it on my phone, is so when I get in my car, if I need to call someone, I could still drive.
Yes. You can also just use speakerphone. You'll be exposed to less if your phone is on speakerphone and not connected through the car system, and the car system is off.
Oh, okay. Even if I guess my Bluetooth. So what if my Bluetooth can turn off on my cell phone?
Yes.
But I can still connect to my car just through that wire.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good.
I'm going to try that.
And see if you can disconnect Bluetooth from your car and use the wire.
Oh.
That configuration could be possible. You just don't know until you try it, right?
That's true.
What the car's capable of. It takes so long to get into these newer cars and try to figure out how to turn off everything. It's deep in settings. deep. But
Yes.
it's worth it, I think. For me, it's really worth it. Someone that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago said that Japan is working on a car that will automatically turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and cell phone connection. And guess what? I found one here. It's not a Japanese car. It's a Porsche. The new electric Porsches have the ability to turn off everything.
Wow.
It's maybe we'll see that from more auto manufacturers.
Right. That would be amazing.
Wouldn't it?
Okay. So I wanted to do just a quick, very brief 5G talk. I know it's like a taboo thing to talk about. But I just wanted to know your thoughts around that.
Well, 5G, the base of 5G is to have more and faster connectivity. And the true 5G will include 13 improvements over what we have now. And the one that seems to be the scariest to most people is the millimeter wave. And the millimeter wave you might have heard of, where the antenna is on every block. And the thing about that millimeter wave is it's unstable. So there has to be more and more and more of these antennas. But a lot of 5G, and what they're calling 5G right now, is really just more 4G antennas and incorporating more connection via Wi-Fi and cell phone. And so there's just faster and more connections. And to me, if we're worried about 5G, we should be worried about what we have now, because it's just an increase in the exposure. And again, the millimeter wave that a lot of people are very concerned about, because we don't have a lot of studies on that particular type of wave. It's a very high frequency wave. And it's just this new part of the bandwidth that's opening up for this kind of communication. That too scares me. It does, because the fact that I've got a big 5G story, and I have a video from New York Wireless and New York University Wireless. It's where a lot of the new 5G technology research is being done. And it has a video of the founder talking to some of the students. And this one student shows how it's really a problem, because just his hand waving stops the millimeter wave. So that really shows us the biological effect that it must have. I mean, if our hand can change the wave, then what is that wave doing to our body? Obviously, it's obviously interacting. And so it was a presentation. So his project was showing how, you put an antenna over here and here and here. And so the wave can bounce to avoid the people that it's having to go through and around. And it's like, oh my goodness, too many antennas, just more and more difficult. Like you were talking about, you've got somebody who's got Wi-Fi above you and below you. This is connectivity and antenna everywhere. In fact, they say that eventually there will be so many antennas that it will be impossible to take a picture anywhere outside without showing one.
Oh my goodness.
That's kind of horrifying.
That is.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have some links that I'll send you to some really great organizations that are trying to get people together to, on a very local level, talk to their council people about the possibility of just slowing this down until we can really decide if it's necessary and if the health effects are in any way worth it, which I don't think so.
Right. Oh my gosh, August, thank you so much. This has been such an eye-opening conversation, and it's so fascinating to me, because I've, here trying to, decrease the amount, though it's somewhat difficult, but I love that you offer solutions to help protect people from these dangerous waves, EMFs. And, I have noticed that every time I sit on my couch, I'd say, what is that? Maybe 8 feet away from the Wi-Fi, from the actual box. that I do get sleepy, but I just assumed that it was, at the end of the day, it's 11 or 11:30 at night, that it was just that. It's hard to know.
It's hard to know, but you know what? Probably, I don't know how big your space is, but you may not need as much power and as much exposure as that Wi-Fi is giving you, even when you are using Wi-Fi. And so there are boxes. I have like a Wi-Fi cage. You can also get material that wraps around the Wi-Fi, and that will reduce some of the energy that's coming out. It's mesh, and so some of it can still get through so that you can use your Wi-Fi. But we're finding that with the power that these new Wi-Fis have, putting them in one of our nice little Faraday boxes is a great way to reduce some of the exposure and still allow enough connectivity for you.
Right. At night when I'm sitting there, I don't think I need that much to watch a little bit of Netflix or something.
Right. I understand. So there are so many things that we can try. And I'm really looking forward to sending you a meter and hoping that you'll also get the kit. And then you can take some measurements yourself and see if you were able to reduce it and still use technology and enjoy it as much as you do now, maybe even more.
Right. It's always something that's in the back of my mind, always. Whenever I'm home, whenever I am, someone's warming up, something in the microwave and I'm standing there, I literally will move out of the way. But I didn't realize that I had to literally get out of the room.
15 feet, yes. Get away from the microwave, right? Step away.
Right, exactly. Oh, August, thank you so much. I really hope that, people can just be more aware of what is in their surroundings, stuff that they can't see. And why don't you tell us where people can find you?
The site is techwellness.com. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, all at Tech Wellness. So please find me. I would really appreciate that. And I have to tell you, Margaret, I've so enjoyed your podcasts. I've really been learning so much from you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And again, we do have lots of solutions and also lots of information.
Yes, it sounds like it. I'm going to look into your website as well and look at all of the really neat devices and solutions that I can get my hands on. So, I bought that grounding meter years ago. And so this has always been an interest of mine and a way of decreasing the amount of radiation. And I haven't had a microwave for the last, I don't even know how many years, until I moved to this place. And so, it just came with it. And so I do, if it's not on, is it still emitting anything?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I haven't tested, but I doubt it.
Okay. Just curious.
It's kind of hard to turn them all the way off, isn't it? To unplug it. That's kind of hard. Usually they're built in.
They're built in, right?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. And for everyone listening, all the information will be in the show notes. And August, thank you so much. We will be in touch. And I so appreciate all your wisdom.
Thank you. Be well.
You too. Okay, what did you think? Wasn't she just full of wisdom when it comes to EMF? Honestly, I learned so much, took so much notes. And by the way, if you are interested in checking out Tech Wellness online, I'm going to have all the links in the show notes. Head on over to margaretromero.com/episode 173. And I would love it if you would share this episode to anyone that you think uses so much EMF on a daily basis and may not realize the effects it may be having on their body. Also, if you've been loving these podcasts, I would love it if you can head on over to iTunes, leave a review, subscribe, so you will be notified every week when I come out with a new episode. Wherever you are in the world, sending you lots of love, and thank you so much for listening.